We'd like to welcome everyone out this evening. We are so lucky to be able to have Chris LeCheminant with us tonight, and the subject that he's going to share with us is awesome. I work disaster work, and I spent a good portion of the day today crawling around under a new home that had a problem, and I was thinking while I was under there, I need to do something different than this. So I can really appreciate the subject that Chris is going to share. I would like you to know that Chris to me is an awesome man, and I've enjoyed learning a lot of financial principles from him, and about money, and about different things that can help us as we go through our journey in our lives. And he's very interesting, and I'd recommend him to anyone to hear and share his message with others. So, Chris, if you'd like, we'd sure like to turn time back over to you. Okay?
That sounds great. Thank you, Kay. I appreciate it. I love to do these presentations because I love to help educate other people. The subject matter tonight, the world has changed. How can we thrive in a changing world? And I remember the struggles I had years ago because I just didn't understand what was going on in the world, what was really going on in the world. And I think it's a disservice to most people that the truth isn't told, quite frankly. And so I'd like to share some of that, a different point of view with you that I believe is the truth. So the first thing I'd like to mention to you is where I come from in my mindset and the way I think. And I had the great privilege in 2005 to join the Rich Dad organization as a personal coach for other people who were interested in the Rich Dad message. And I would recommend, if you've never read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, to take a look at that book, because this was one of the, can I say, a culmination of a lot of research and study that I had done, and quite frankly, a lot of career changes that I had done throughout the years, and reached a point of tremendous frustration with my career trajectory, and it seemed like I was going backwards more than I was going forwards. Then I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it just changed everything for me. So tonight what I'd like to do is to share with you some of these fundamental principles. Now, this is not a Rich Dad event. I got to make that clear. This is just me personally sharing information with you, a lot of information I learned because I have been intimately involved in the Rich Dad organization. It's been fantastic. So I want to share some of that information with you tonight. The first thing I'd like to point out is, when I graduated from college with a degree in business, I went off into the world to start my career, and I just knew that I was going to jump into this career path, and that would be my career path for the rest of my life. Just like my dad, and just like his dad, and just like everyone before that, it seemed like, right? And only to realize later on that it was really what we would call industrial age thinking, and the industrial age is long gone. So our school systems are still designed around the process of becoming a good employee, and it's been that way for so long. And the interesting thing, in my opinion, is our school systems are some of the slowest to change, to evolve into what we would call the brave new world that we have today. And so that really is a problem. But the good news is we really do have choices, that we can become something beyond just an employee. So what does that look like? One of my favorite principles in the Rich Dad message is what we call the cash flow quadrant. In the cash flow quadrant, we identify 4 different areas in which you can generate income, create income, receive income. On the left-hand side, we see that there's the E and the S quadrants. E stands for employee, S stands for self-employed, and K, he just described what we would call the self-employed. All right. So self-employed is not exactly where we want to be, but E quadrant, or having a job, is one of the most challenging of all. On the right side of the quadrants are what we call the B quadrant, business owner, and the I quadrant, investor. So how long are you really willing to wait for a raise or a promotion to increase your income as an employee? Because sometimes when I talk to people about this, they think, well, I like my safe, secure job. Is it really secure? I mean, I have to tell you that my experience was not so good. I'm not a lazy person. I work very, very hard, and in the E quadrant, things weren't working out. And so, as we think about this E quadrant, S quadrant, B quadrant, and I quadrant, one of the things that's interesting to think about is, well, what has been your experience if you're an employee? It seemed like many times that employee approach to things turned into a dead end. I remember one time I was in my second career. Okay, so I'd already transitioned out of the first one, and I was in my second career, and I ended up losing my position just simply because I wasn't willing to tell the big boss what he wanted to hear. I spoke the truth about our company because I wanted things to improve, and that didn't go over well. So what happened? The door to promotion was essentially shut, and everybody else was not real happy with that. The irony of it was when I left the company, within 3 months, this guy got fired. So security as an employee is generally what people will cite as a reason why they stay an employee. They're not real happy with it, but they stay with it because they think it's the safe, secure job. I went into finance after a little while, after leaving that career where I didn't get, I wasn't the say what they want to hear guy. Anyway, in a finance career, I thought it was very, very interesting that this was my situation. I went to work for this company. We were contracted to work for another company, and that was great. So I worked for this company for about a year, and then over the next year, maybe year and a half, I changed companies 3 times and never left my desk. But every time there was a company merger or sale or acquisition, I had to essentially fight for my job and get it back. And then eventually that went away. And you think employee and security, are they really the same thing? I don't think so. Now, a business owner, does that provide freedom? Well, it does and it doesn't. If you're in the S quadrant, as we talked about before, generally no, you're tied to your job. But can you really go out and buy a business that doesn't need you? You'd have to have a lot of capital, a lot of resources. But can we grow from the S quadrant into the B quadrant? Absolutely. So I use this illustration of a winding road simply to say that, yeah, it's not a straight shot to the B quadrant usually. Maybe if you're lucky, it could be. But there's nothing wrong with taking that winding road if it takes you to freedom. And so we're going to look at the S quadrant and the B quadrant and the I quadrant just a little bit more. So when we think about escaping from the E quadrant, what does it mean? It means choosing something else besides climbing the corporate ladder or being the good employee, because I'll tell you what, I don't know of any business where the boss's responsibility is to make you rich as an employee. That's not how it works. I mean, it used to be in the industrial age that you could work at a job until you retired, get the gold watch, and move on. And one of the biggest differences, though, is in the industrial age, the employer provided you with your retirement plan. That's exactly what happened for my dad. He got what was called a defined benefit plan. And that all changed in 1974 with the ERISA Act. With the ERISA Act, the responsibility for retirement shifted to the employee. And in that shift, the change in retirement plans became what's called a defined contribution plan. You got out of it only what you put into it and how well it grew. And so we were all forced essentially into the I quadrant, the investor quadrant, without having the education. Oh my goodness, how has that worked out? Right now in the stock market, for some people, by default, pretty good. Stock market's done well. Will it continue to do well? That's a big debate. But here's what we know. If you really want freedom, you've got to think beyond the employee. Now think about this too. When we talk about security and the desire for security, if you really get right down to it, Robert Kiyosaki said this one time, and I think he's written about it too, but I've heard it from him as well. He said, if you really want security, you can just go to maximum security jail, right? And you're secure, you're in maximum security, but you don't have any freedom. And usually what we end up doing in this search for security is we end up giving up freedom. And that's kind of a scary thing. So if freedom is what you want, then let's start talking about the S quadrant, the B quadrant, and the I quadrant. So as I mentioned before, you're probably not going to just jump right into the B quadrant, where you own systems and people work for you. And actually in the rich dad world, by definition, a B quadrant business is one with 500 or more employees. So that's just not something we think about as a leap from the E quadrant to the B quadrant very often. It's more of a transition to the S quadrant and on to the B quadrant. So if you notice in the B quadrant, what we focus on is owning a system and having people work for you. And so we may start out in building our business and then move on to the creation or adaptation of systems to then allow other people to work for us. So let's take a look a little bit about what we need to have in a business to help us make the transition from the S quadrant to the B quadrant. This is actually one of my very most favorite principles in the Rich Dad materials, and it's called the BI triangle. If you think about what's on the right side of the quadrant, there's the B quadrant and the I quadrant. That's where it comes from, the BI triangle. Now, in this, there's what we call the 8 integrities of business. And I've got this cool coin, by the way. Let me pull it out of its sleeve. This is a Rich Dad coin. Whoop, there we go. This is a Rich Dad coin. On the front is that cash flow quadrant, E, S, B, and I. But my favorite thing personally is what's on the back of the coin. On the back of the coin is this BI triangle. I don't know if you can see it because it can be kind of shiny, but right underneath the BI triangle, what it says is the Rich Dad BI triangle, the 8 integrities of business. And I remember before I got this coin, I was thinking, I always called them the 8 components of business. The 8 components of a business, but I love the word integrities, because what that really means is I've learned more and applied the BI triangle is you need all 8. They're the integrities of business you must have to be successful. And these 8 integrities are very, very interesting. Early in my coaching career, when I would talk to coaching clients about the BI triangle, I used to say, you know, the BI triangle has 8 equal parts and they're all equally important. That's not true. Okay, that's not true. Over time, I've learned from Robert mainly that they're in the order that you see for a very important reason. Everything is based upon the mission of the business. All those internal integrities of business are held together by mission, team, and leadership. I'm telling you this because of what's coming up. So let's take a look at something here. You know, what if you don't have a lot of business experience? Are you doomed to stay an employee? Actually, no, you're not. And one of the great resources, I mean, the great advances in our world today, mainly because of the information age that we're in, and even beyond that, is that network marketing is really becoming a great solution for our global economy. I mean, we no longer have to have a physical location in which to do business. Network marketing provides the majority of the BI triangle. So if you look at the arrows, the red arrows in this illustration, I'm pointing to all the things that a good network marketing company will provide you pretty much right up front. They have a mission. They have a team that supports you, often referred to as a back office, but also you usually would sign up with a group of people that is called your upline, and their focus is on helping you grow and develop and build your business because they benefit from that too. And then also it comes with systems. Ooh, systems. Remember that from the definition of the B quadrant. You own systems. A lot of the legal is taken care of already for you. The products and or the services that you might be selling as a network marketing business owner are usually provided and the legal's taken care of. And then of course the product is already identified. So what do you need to bring? You need to bring some leadership skills. You need to bring your ability to manage cash flow, and you need to bring the ability to communicate. An interesting thing about communications, we talk about internal communications and external communications. The external communications is essentially your marketing, your public relations, and your sales skills. Internal communication is how you deal with your people, your employees, potentially, or in network marketing, how you deal with your upline and your downline. Very, very interesting, though. Whenever I'm coaching someone and we're talking about business, I'm usually thinking about the BI triangle as we talk about issues and problems they might have in their business, because I can always find one or more parts or integrities of the BI triangle that have problems. And then we focus in on those. It's like a business consultant in a box. You know, it's fantastic stuff. And so if you understand the BI triangle and you learn to use the BI triangle properly, you now have something you can migrate from the S quadrant to the B quadrant. And it's fantastic. So let's take a look at this in a little bit more detail. So not only are we thinking S quadrant, B quadrant, but we also have the I quadrant, right? So we have the opportunity to consider being in more than one. Well, what do you mean by that? Don't you have one and you choose it? No, not really. You could be in the E, S, B, and I quadrant all at the same time. So in addition to building a business as a way to create freedom and get out of the false sense of security that comes in the E quadrant, you could, in addition to considering the business, look at the I quadrant as well. So what does that look like? Well, in my opinion, one of the best sequences to do this is build a business and then invest the income from that business once you've paid your bills, right? Invest the income from that business into the I quadrant. Well, what is the I quadrant? Well, the choices in the I quadrant are things like investing in real estate for cash flow, investing in paper assets, which would be in the stock market, investing in precious metals and other commodities, so real tangible assets could possibly be another form of the I quadrant. So I love this idea that you can start building a business, but one of the mistakes that people make in network marketing that I see personally is that they'll start making a lot of money in the the S and the B quadrant through their network marketing business, and then they blow it on a lavish lifestyle instead of moving some or most of it to the investment quadrant, the I quadrant, to then create more and more passive income through their investments and prepare for tough times that may be ahead. So let's take a look at what we're talking about when we say tough times ahead. So our monetary system, just like our education system, it is not on our side. Okay, and if you've seen some of the other presentations I've done, or check them out, we talk about the monetary system in great detail. And here's what we know. We know that governments all around the world can create money out of thin air, all at the expense of their citizens. Create money out of thin air? Well, they just make it up, and there's nothing that backs us. The US dollar has not been backed by anything of value, particularly gold, since 1971. And what has happened since 1971? If we were to look at the statistics, it would blow you away. Since the creation of what we call the Federal Reserve in 1913, the dollar has lost 96% of its purchasing power. That's incredible. And have you ever wondered how a government can run huge deficits? It's the money's not real. Have you ever had the suspicion that even though you've been getting raises, let's say, or making a little bit more money, that you've still been falling behind? I mean, this stuff should sound familiar to a lot of you. And then you got to understand that there are ways to protect your purchasing power, and it's by owning real money. And what you'll learn from me is that real money is precious metals, gold and silver. Now, I do have to present a little disclaimer here, because this is not investment advice. This is education. Everybody should get their own proper legal and tax advice from a competent advisors that are familiar with your situation. This is not for everybody. But I'll tell you what, when we start looking at what's going on with the dollar as well as currencies around the world, you start to get pretty nervous about where it's going. And for me, being able to preserve my wealth through precious metals has been a good choice of mine for a long, long time. Okay. Now, one of the things that's really cool about this is this question: can I become a business owner and protect my wealth? In other words, can I be in the B quadrant and the I quadrant as an investor? And the answer is absolutely yes. We can merge them together. And I have to tell you this, I've been a Rich Dad coach since 2005, sorry. And to date, what is that? Almost 13 years. It'll be 13 years as a Rich Dad coach. And I tell you that because in that time, I essentially took a vow personally that I would never join a network marketing company, because I'm presented with them all the time from clients who are in network marketing and are using coaching to improve themselves and improve their business. And so it just made it super easy to say, you know what, I just don't. I don't buy their products and I don't join them, just simply because I'm always approached with them. Well, outside of coaching, something happened. Okay. A friend of mine said, hey, you got to take a look at this. And he said, it's about gold and silver. And I said, I'm interested. Okay. And so what I did was I looked at a company called 7K Metals. And this is just absolutely cool because it's the B and the I quadrants blended together. So what does that look like? Well, with 7K Metals, for me, the biggest key of all was I had the opportunity to buy more precious metals at cost. I'd never seen that before. I've been investing in gold and silver since 2008. December 2008 is when I got started. And, set a position, just it's always been part of what I do. But for a long, long time, I didn't buy any more. Because I thought I was there, and I was actually. But the thing that was so interesting is when I looked at 7K Metals, I went, wow, these prices are incredible. So I became a buyer again. In fact, for Christmas, one of the things I did was I gave each of my 5 children silver buffaloes. They all got silver buffaloes for Christmas, and the thing I told them was, this is not something you're just going to go out and cash in and spend. Hang on to it, I promise you. You'll be glad you did. And so we have a great opportunity to access precious metals at cost, and it's an amazing thing. But the other side of it is this B quadrant part, and that's the opportunity to build a business as well. Because in the process of joining 7K Metals, it's a membership type of program, just like Costco. Every year you renew your membership with Costco so that you have access to the great deals that they have in a Costco store. Well, 7K Metals, same thing. You sign up with a membership, and then you have access to the precious metals. Now, down the road, don't look at these numbers. Okay, this is today's pricing on precious metals. And every time I look at the places I used to buy precious metals and compare, the silver maple leaf is what I used to buy. So I usually, just to stay consistent, I price the Canadian silver maple leaf. And it's always been at least $1 more expensive per ounce or per coin when I looked at the other sites I used to use all the time. So it's great pricing, and then you have an income opportunity, an opportunity to build a business by sharing this information with others. Now here's where it makes sense. So think about this. 7K Metals could go out and advertise like crazy. They could be on the radio, they could be on the TV, they could be doing Facebook stuff if they wanted. They could spend a lot of money shotgunning out their promotional materials. But that's not cost effective anymore. This is why network marketing is so valuable today. Instead, what they do is they don't spend any money on marketing. They give you the opportunity to do that. So where does all that marketing money go? It goes to you. So the commissions are much higher. The opportunities to create income just skyrocket in this kind of situation because you become the marketing arm, and you're more efficient with it because you target people that would be interested instead of just throwing something out there and hoping somebody will look at it. So very efficient business system. The reward comes to you. And so when you are presented to somebody else and they sign up, you're building a commission base for that person signing up, as well as some other resources as well. Because in addition to buying silver at cost, there's what's called numismatic or collectible coins that you could buy as well that do have a bit of a markup to them in order to keep the income streams rolling. So it's a pretty cool situation, and it's something to think about. So if we go back to the idea that I want to be in the B and the I quadrants, as the Rich Dad principle would say, then how are you going to do that? And especially if you don't have a lot of business experience, this is a tremendous solution. That I joined because not only was it the opportunity to continue my investing in gold and silver and my love for precious metals, but it matched up with the income opportunity as well. And it just made sense for the first time in 13 years. Okay, it made sense to get involved in something like this, and I recommend it to you as well. So one thing you want to do is you want to just do a quick assessment. And I like to say it this way: are you a 1, a 2, or a 3? Well, what does that mean? If you're a 1, you're all in. Just sign me up, ready to go. If you're a 2, you're thinking, hey, this is interesting, but I got some questions. If you're a 3, it's nope, not interested. Thank you very much. And you know what? No offense. If you're a 3, it's okay. It may not be for you. That's okay. But if you're a 1 or 2, get with the person who invited you to watch this and get your questions answered. And then the second thing is, learn for yourself why precious metals make sense. Do some research. Figure out why I'm so high on precious metals and why I love having that. And then the last thing is, then make your plans to escape the E quadrant, or in Kay's position, to escape the S quadrant, right? And there you go. Kay, I'll turn it back to you.
Hey, well, thank you, Chris. You shared a lot of great information and insights that I think sometimes we have a hard time defining, and so it's great to be able to hear you explain them. And I truly I would agree with you. To me, the 7K metals is such a powerful opportunity there for us, and the thing about that membership, which I think is really great, is that you can purchase 1 coin or 1,000 coins, all the precious metals you want with that membership. It's you pay it once a year for the membership itself, and have access to that all the way through. So there's a lot more to the 7K metals too, and we really would love to be able to share that with people. So like you said, get with the person that invited you to listen to this presentation, and talk about it and learn more about the 7K. Well, thank you, Chris. We appreciate you. We will stop the recording on this and put it up online so that people can listen to it. Okay.
Thank you.
You bet.